Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar, Deliver Best-in-Class Mobile Customer Experiences, Understand How Specific Parts of the Mobile Experience Impact Success. I'm going to introduce today's moderator, Tom Murphy. He is CMS Wire's General Manager and Editorial Director. He has written extensively about technology and business for more than 3 decades and has helped build some of the top online media companies, including MarketWatch, Red Herring, and Bloomberg News. He's also the author of Web Rules, How the Internet is Changing the Way Consumers Make Choices. Tom, take it away.
Thank you very much, Audrey. It's really a pleasure to be here today. And we have a worldwide audience, so I want to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Wherever you are in the world, we're very pleased you're joining us for what promises to be a really, really great presentation. Deliver best-in-class mobile customer experience. Aren't we all after that? Before we get started, I have a couple of housekeeping rules I want to go through. First, just to outline the program, where I'll start with these introductions. I'll introduce our speakers, Lou Casal and Phillip Clemente, who will do most of the presentation. We'll stop in the middle there and have a polling question for you, so please be ready to vote. And then we'll do a live Q&A. We'll be giving you information on that right here. You can submit your questions in the column to the right in the chat or the Q&A box, or you can send them by Twitter to those 3 addresses there, SmarterCXM. That'd probably be the easiest, but any of those 3 will work. That's fine. CMS Wire, in case you're not a regular reader, was founded in 2003. We have over 100 monthly contributors. Most of them are practitioners just like you. We publish over 300 articles a month that are just in the themes that you're most interested in: customer experience, digital marketing, social business, and, well, you can see the list there. We have monthly tweet jams, hangouts, webinars, interviews, discussion points. Please sign up for our newsletter, and we'll be glad to see you on the site. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our 2 guests for today. Lou Casal is Senior Director for Product Marketing at SDL. He's a senior executive with more than 18 years experience developing and delivering global enterprise solutions to the world's most recognized brands. He continues to pioneer unique customer-centric initiatives that focus on solving the growing engagement challenges marketers and their technology teams face when courting today's always-on customers. Our second guest is Phillip Clemente. He's Vice President of Mobile at SDL, and he's been really at the cutting edge of mobile solutions for almost 20 years. He's delivered million-dollar customer contracts and complex, groundbreaking mobile solutions for blue chips in mobile such as Vodafone, Cable and Wireless, British Telecom. He's a founding member of Bamoco. He's responsible for driving sales and marketing strategy, client acquisitions, building the Bamoco brand from a startup to one of the leading mobile solution providers. So, gentlemen, welcome, and I'll turn the table over to you now. You can lead your presentation. Lou, are you ready to take that? We have a momentary pause here as Lou takes control.
Yeah, Lou?
Well, I'm sure Lou will be taking this in a moment here. Audrey, I know this is not your first presentation, and I know that technical glitches happen. Oh, I see some action on the screen here. Now, if we can hear Lou's voice, we'll be all set. Well, we seem to be having a little bit of problem getting that. If he puts up the rest of the agenda, I could read that off while he's getting a sound problem fixed.
I think we have it solved.
Oh, good.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Nice to hear you there.
And so thank you for joining Phillip and myself. We'll touch on quickly why we're here today. We want to really cover 3 key points, and the first being why contextual relevant experiences are critical to all the touch points, but especially your mobile strategy. How essentially do you understand this is basically being delivered, right? So to look at your mobile experiences, look at the things that you're doing right now, and understanding where are the key elements and what are the key factors on delivering a great experience. And lastly, what to consider when optimizing for mobile, because it's special in itself. And so we wanted to essentially, give you very clear guidelines and best practices of things that you can do right now. So to begin, let's take a look at the first question. And when we talk about contextually relevant experiences, the best way to understand it would be to think about the world we're in, and to think about, when we're in this noisy, chaotic environment, if someone understands who you are, where you are, what you're doing, they understand you in our context for interactive marketing, or, they understand your device, they understand the things that you trust and don't trust. They understand the individual, right? And when I say somebody understands me at this level, I usually describe them as a friend or a family member, right? And this is where marketers really get to shine, when they think about things from an outside-in perspective, and when they think about it and approach it as less about, how do I personalize and optimize a landing page, in reverse to how do I deliver a great experience. So what happens is, when you do all those things beautifully and orchestrate the things that we're about to show you, you really deliver great experiences. And experiences matter. The folks at Forrester have actually done, and others have done, a great job of really identifying where customer experience fits into your overall mix. And it's more than just good customer service. It's all the touch points, and it really makes a major difference to the success of your business. And the reality for us is the fact that, for our discussion, content is the foundation of these experiences, right? We're talking about interactive experiences. For years, we've heard that content is king, and it really provides the foundation. And if you think about why and how this occurs, is the fact that while we're on a customer journey, there's maybe the purchase journey, or the pre-sale, right, journey, where we're trying to find something that solves a need for us or a want, and there's different touch points, and we're interacting with content and information and the brand. And there's also that continues after the purchase, right? There's so many different touch points that today it's not a one-size-fits-all. You need to be able to balance a lot of different scenarios, and mobile has really just become the go-to channel. And when we say mobile, we mean it in a very broad sense. And it's not just your phone, it's not just your tablet, it's all of that, right? And we're multi-device consumers. And so the reality is, what are we consuming, what kind of content, and the thing that, to also have a very broad definition is, when we say content, we mean it in the broadest sense, is we're also including, powerful visuals, video, rich media into that mix, because that's really becoming a key part of these touch points. So, looking at the fact that experience matters and content is the foundation, the next part would be really talking about context. And Philip, I believe you definitely have some great insights along this line.
Well, I think for me, it's a really exciting time for context. In the pre-run, the company Bimoko that I was involved with before its acquisition by SDL last year, there was always this content, and then there was always kind of devices, and they were kind of separate and ran alongside one another. And when we brought these two pieces of the puzzle together, this content and then real rich delivery capabilities, it gave us the capability to be able to deliver true context. Now, a lot of people say to me, well, isn't that just personalization? Isn't what you're talking about just understanding the customer and delivering them what they want? And I would say it's kind of beyond that. And when you do look at the research, you see that the research is saying that consumers and customers' mobility, their ability to move from channel to channel, to use devices, to take control of their journey right the way through that whole buying process, means that the customer is king. The customer has power, and we really are now in the age of the customer. And that's really very much what Forrester has been talking about and saying that this is, the age of the customer. And if we're to succeed in the age of the customer, then you have to have a context strategy, and you have to be able to deliver all of the things that you've just been talking about.
So, thank you, Philip. I mean, along these lines, essentially, and just to kind of drive home the point, Forrester's actually, seen this trend regarding context and really talk about contextualized experiences. They talk about it from an outside-in approach, and I think we can really stress the fact that that becomes, a very key part of being able to deliver to the customer these wonderful experiences. So, I guess the big takeaway here is customer experience drives success, but context is what's driving the customer experience. And we're going to explore that in more detail right now. So how do you assess this? Philip, I know you've done plenty of site assessments and provided customers some great feedback. Where do you look, and how do you take apart your mobile experience to understand you're delivering a good or a bad experience?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to step inside your customer's shoes. I mean, this is very much looking at it from the marketer's perspective. But let's not forget that our marketing teams and our tech teams have to work so seamlessly together, because all the things that marketers know and understand about customers and what they do and where their touch points are and where what their hot buttons are and all of that kind of stuff. Somehow we have to translate that through what is becoming a very, very complicated and complex landscape of device types and device places and time and context and and all of the things that we have to kind of build for. But so technical people as well as marketing people really have to join hands and get together and genuinely step in the shoes of their customers. I think that's so important. And it's really easy to think about us as a brand or us as a company or us as our supplier or what we do, looking outward rather than kind of really stepping on this, in the side of the customer and saying, well, how does that feel? What is the customer experiencing genuinely when they visit your website or turn on an app or turn on the TV and watch an advert? What emotions are going through? And then, I heard a great phrase this week, is a bad experience makes a mad customer, and that's so true. And I think we've all experienced frustration and bad stuff, and we tend to skip over some of the good things. That's the thing that you don't even notice. When it's really, really cool, really, really good, you kind of don't even notice it. But when it's really bad, it kind of just stands out like a sore thumb.
Absolutely. So, when you and I have discussed, taking a look at a mobile site, a mobile experience, or really any of the touch points, one of the first things we talk about is from a customer's perspective. Again, this is all from the customer's perspective, and we all been there, is what do I want to accomplish? But especially for mobile, you have to add the word now, right? And it's similar, what information do I need now? It's a very immediate, very in-the-moment type of scenario where I'm, as a customer, I want things at my fingertips. I want speed. I want, it to be relevant, and that's just the starting point.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be relevant, and but it's kind of changing all the time because you kind of never know where the customer is going to come in, and the research is also showing that the journey doesn't start and end on one type of device. Shopping starts somewhere and then transitions through a whole host of different places before the actual transaction is made. So you've got all these different places to make sure that you've got a consistent experience, that it's relevant for that precise time on the device that they're using. And, you know, it's not an easy thing to do, but it has to be relevant. And these are the challenges.
So we talked about in the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, relevant in the moment, you know, speed of interaction, the context, all of those things are absolutely key critical. And these are the things that are the big challenge. And I genuinely think that, you know, when we do these site assessments, when we kind of look at different mobile experiences and desktop experiences, and then jump from channel to channel and really try and get under the skin of all of those things, again, it's really easy to spot the things that aren't so great. But it's also really important to kind of really understand the things that are working really, really well, and then enhance those.
Absolutely, and in the end, it's one of the words on this slide is the expectations. So when you're looking at all these different factors on being able to really fine-tune and deliver the context, some of it, you know, requires knowledge and data and insight, right? And some of it is just, you know, being able to properly plan for what that experience should be with these in mind as key factors. You agree?
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, we're all customers, right? And we all have massively high expectations. And with technology as well, the expectation is that it should just work. In this world of high tech, when you visit a site or you download something or you try and buy something or you click on a button, the expectation is just should work, and when it doesn't, it really notices.
Absolutely. So, since we've given everyone a bit to think about, we would like to offer up a polling question, and you know, so based on some of the contextual factors that we just described, we know everyone has different purposes, not only to be on the call, but to also be able to drive their mobile efforts. You know, what are some of the things, and please check all that apply, that you want to really try to accomplish in the not too distant future? And I believe
we're going to give people about 20 seconds or 30 seconds to respond here. So please click on all those boxes that you like there. And while we're waiting, Phil and Lou, why don't you each take 10 seconds to tell us which? Well, I don't want to trick the answer here. But what do you think is going to be the leading answer?
I mean, for me, I think kind of bespoke mobile content is probably going to rank pretty high. I know that, you know, we've gone through various phases of mobile delivery, and everyone's been working really, really hard to kind of go from the desktop experience through to a mobile experience, and then a cross-channel or omni-channel experience. And we've seen lots of really good moves in that place. But I think now we've kind of moved from two sites or two different things, and then to a complete piece. But I think we're now beginning to see that bespoke mobile content is becoming more important. And I think that rich media, you know,
do you concur?
Yes, I believe that. I believe it's an underlying factor that I don't know if it's always articulated and defined within a project. But I think often that's where you go, right? And it's interesting because, you know, the two things that kind of stick out to me on this list are rich media, and it all depends on your audience. So if you essentially focus on millennials, this is a group that essentially is the YouTube generation, right? And if you don't see it, it didn't happen. Right? Don't tell me about it. I don't want to read about it. I want to see it. And so, you know, that's one of the things that we're seeing beginning to trend, and there's definitely some things there. But I think faster response time, I think folks are beginning to realize, you know, there's a lot of moving pieces, and to derive a faster experience, I think that doesn't surprise me that that's coming up high on the poll.
Yeah, I agree with you. But we have the results now. Let's take a look at this. It looks like our leading answer is faster, lighter pages. There is a strong presence there for content targeting. That's a virtual tie. No answer. No, 33% just had no opinion on this. I think location and bespoke content, the rich media, all steered strongly there. And 12% of our listeners don't really have anything to say on that yet, so which is kind of alarming, I think. So, gentlemen, why don't you resume your slides, and we'll look forward to seeing the rest of this great presentation.
Fantastic. So, now that we kind of set the stage, we'd like to really kind of dive into some of the key components that everybody should be considering. And I had mentioned even during the polling is, being able to target your content, be able to, really be able to develop it and deliver it for mobile, and again across a multitude of devices and touch points. So what really comes down to what are the key things to consider? Well, before we even look at optimizing mobile, we kind of have to take a step back, because a lot of the things that we've been working on for quite some time on the website, optimizing landing pages and experiences and all that, we're kind of repeating history. But if we don't have it really solid from the website, it really begins to impact our ability to engage our customer when we start talking about mobile as the predominant channel. We all deal with things and try to address segmentation and being able to target content and audiences, development and delivery of content, and how do we do this in a proactive way, grabbing data from multiple sources. But the reality is this is done by a lot of different marketers. It's done over an array of different systems, and so often this becomes a siloed type of situation. What we're essentially saying for the story that focuses on mobile, but it really is about delivering a contextually relevant experience, is the fact that you need to integrate these pieces. It essentially takes a village of marketers doing different things, and to deliver these experiences, to deliver these great customer experiences, you want it to be seamless. You want to have this wonderful customer experience in the middle of all this, and what you need to really do is be able to share the data, share the information, not have things as a throw it over the fence type process, but be able to have this 360 approach to data, not as a one-off type of thing, but something that can be shared in between the different functions, and where this is not bolted on, but a seamless flow to all deliver that contextually relevant experience. In the end, what you have to do after you get that all together is broker it, and that's really what becomes critical. Is you can't do this by hand. When we talk about enterprises, we're talking about a bit of scale, and this is, we are no longer the ability to just bang off a mobile site and for our promotion and it's a one-off. In the long run, that is going to be very ineffective, costly, and so on. So, this really becomes a critical foundation step for context, regardless of the touch. Now, taking that golden experience that we want, all right, for mobile, there's three more things that we need to speak to. And I know, Philip, you've talked about this a great deal over the years, so I'm going to let you kick this off.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, bringing all those pieces together seamlessly is a big challenge, and you're absolutely right about not having them as disjointed and disparate pieces. But I think when you start getting into the whole mobile piece, there are kind of three key areas, and that approach is really important, because that has an effect on the experience that you end up delivering, and then putting yourself in the shoes of your customers is around that whole mobile context. And so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of drill down into those three sort of areas around approach, experience, mobile context, and kind of bring some color to that and look at some specifics that can really help with your mobile strategies. So the first thing really, around approach is to make sure that your approach is kind of aligned with the complexity of your site. I certainly see either not enough investment or too much complexity for a particular site. So really understanding how to align, all of the pieces of the puzzle that you put together. For instance, an app being used for specific things like offline content or power users, or where you want to add some intrinsic value. Using techniques like responsive design for simple areas of your site, simple information pages, not trying to overcomplicate them. Maybe using a separate standalone MDOT site, a separate mobile site for speed of delivery or driving campaigns. So often we see sites that are been slowed down because they're just wrapped up in the day-to-day kind of web delivery and perhaps doing something slightly different. So there's kind of no one fix all, but making sure that you're picking the right option for the right thing that you're doing at any one time. But I also think it's really important to have fully integrated enterprise kind of middleware and full-on solutions, especially around complex sites or commerce sites, or where you've got multi-countries or multiple languages or multiple products. And here's an experience on screen of it was interesting actually in the poll that we just had about people looking at making the pages lighter and faster and more agile, because I think the more things you want to get onto the mobile site, the slower they become. And this is an example here of where we're using something like responsive design, and you're taking an existing website and you're kind of just squishing it and sending it out to mobile, and that's part of the experience. But that's demonstrating how the approach is perhaps having a detrimental effect on the experience. And if the experience isn't great because it's too slow, then of course we're going to start losing customers, and that's the last thing that anyone wants. So rather than just catering for screen size, perhaps looking at the actual content that's required. And again, I think that came out in the survey, looking at targeted content. I think on the next couple of slides, we're kind of looking at seamless functionality. It's really important to get back-end connectivity into other products and services. And this is all about where customers jump from channel to channel. So, they'll experience one thing on your desktop or on a tablet, and then when they come to mobile, that experience isn't there. Or where they get something on a mobile app that then they're not really able to replicate or find an essence of, or the right essence of, within the desktop or the tablet browsing experience. So back-end connectivity is absolutely essential. I think it's something in the region of 90% of people use multiple screens sequentially. They'll hop from channel to channel through that whole buying experience. Smartphones, they're essentially part of that instant access, that accessibility. But then we know that, somewhere in the region of 70% of people use multiple devices, to actually complete the whole transaction. So making sure these back-end connectivity things, really, really work seamlessly across all of those areas. So that's why, the approach that you use needs to be really tailored to the specific, page that you're running, or the service that you've got, or the campaign that you're running, and try not to kind of just use a one-size-fits-all approach, because it doesn't necessarily, deliver the right experiences. So absolutely, when we talk about experiences, we can have a look at a few of those areas.
Yeah, and what I just wanted to add to this is, from a marketer's point of view, you're trying to communicate, engage on many levels, and in this particular example, there's real-time data and there's a lot of functionality, and the fact that it's seamless and it's also in the right context, whether you're on a tablet or a smartphone, makes all the difference, because not only, as Phil just mentioned, is there's multiple touches, but you also can lose people very quickly. Essentially, the expectations are very high for mobile, and so when you frustrate, it's very easy just to completely lose your audience very fast. And so this is where the experience really matters, and being able to approach it from this from this vantage point becomes critical. So as far as, kind of along the same lines, you want to be able to provide folks the content they want and the content they're looking for. They need to be able to do business with you and interact with you in an easy way. Is the content clear? Are you using the real estate, the screen real estate in the proper way? You would use it one way on a laptop, and in a traditional web, similar but different on a tablet. You would also recognize there's other factors that we're about to bring up regarding location and time. But the key thing here is, are you getting them the content they want? And this is a great example of an organization that just has so much content and so much new content, and it's the ability to manage this and always provide it for the customer in very digestible bites, regardless of what mobile device that they're leveraging. So along the same lines, we want it easy, right? Philip, I know this is one of your favorite examples.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's kind of easy and consistent experience, and then there's the one-size-fits-all. So, you just saw a really great example there of how it looks contextually relevant. There's the right information. It's simple. It's fast. It delivers exactly on the button. Here's a great first start, right? This is fantastic. If you need to get stuff on mobile, then it's kind of there. But I just see so much opportunity that is being missed in these kinds of examples. It falls short of a cross-channel experience. It's not, it's I guess you could call it an omni-channel experience. It's the same thing, just laid out slightly differently. But is it contextually relevant? And I've seen the other extreme, and I get a bit mad when I hear people talking about mobile first, right? And I kind of get the concept of mobile first. It's something that Google started talking about a little while ago, maybe a couple of years ago, mobile first. But I think in some cases it's been taken to the other extreme, where you now start to denigrate the desktop experience in favor of the mobile experience. So you go to the mobile and it looks all fab and groovy, and then when you open the site on a desktop, it's kind of the mobile experience, but on a slightly bigger screen. So device detection and understanding and tailoring the experience, it's not just a one-size-fits-all approach. It is about that detection, understanding, and then targeting the content for the time and the place, and all of those things are eminently possible. And I guess in a way that comes back to the approach, because if the approach you're using doesn't give you the capacity or the capability to be able to target content, then it becomes a little bit more difficult.
Absolutely, and to kind of touch on this example along the same lines, we talked about clear content, easy to get to. Philip, this is an example of essentially having things work really well on the web side, and then depending on the approach, you're burying content navigation, you're burying your best call to actions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, I mean, one of the key things along these lines is also to look at consistent experiences, and Philip and myself have kind of talked and touched on the fact that it's easy content, it's the content you want, it's contextually correct for the device or the endpoint, the touch point, but essentially you want to have some consistency on your branding, and this is a great example of some very high-end, some visually stunning properties and resorts along around the globe, and they've been able to leverage a lot of imagery for their web efforts, and why not be able to also, make that available in a mobile context, right? And so whether it's on a tablet or whether it's on a smartphone, the idea is you still want that navigation, you still want to be able to do everything in the proper context, but you really want to be able to leverage your assets. You really want to be able to put them in the right context and have that brand consistency, have that consistent experience regardless of the channel, because as Phil just mentioned, we don't just shop on our phone or shop on our tablet or do things on the laptop. We're literally jumping, and there's lots of data to kind of support this, is the fact that we're multi-device consumers, and that's when we talk about mobile, that's the reality. It's not a device, it's devices. Philip, did you have something you wanted to add here?
I think this example here just really brings to life that consistent experience as you jump from channel to channel. It's relevant on each of the channels that we're looking at here. But if I were to visit the site on my desktop and then visit the site on my mobile device, I kind of know I'm in the same place. I know I'm in the right place. It feels, the feel is the same, but the navigation is suitable for mobile, and it's presenting the right kind of information. But I think even here, we can go a step further, and this is where kind of really tapping into the strengths and capability of devices is really key. So, maybe location and adding in that kind of air of where the customer is. So those kinds of things are layering on more contextually relevant experience, and this is where mobile has such power.
And this really brings us to our next example is, the nice buzzword is geolocation, and when you have factors like location and time, as you're alluding to, is the fact that there's so much more than just someone sitting at their desk on their PC. You have an opportunity to say, all right, my audience is special, and it's special because, and in this example, it's a traveler, and this is, this application of it is to be able to look at it and say, all right, this traveler's inside our airport, and physically here, this is their layover. This is important information, everything from parking to rent a car. Here's the information they need at their fingertips, back to be, deliver it in a way that's easy and contextually relevant. But we also can offer them things, everything from, specials, because, face it, today's airports are really becoming very high-end shopping malls in a lot of ways. And so there's a lot to do at the airport itself, and to be able to give relevant suggestions and offers, all based on location and time and even schedule of that particular individual traveler. At this point, you're becoming hyper relevant, right? The key point, though, is this definitely is permission based, and it's one of those things where you just, and this is the place marketers have to just be careful of, is this is great when you have the relationship with someone, and it's creepy when you don't. So that becomes a key factor.
Yeah, I guess that, you're definitely right there. But one of the polling questions that is really interesting is around the page weight and speed of the page. But the nice thing about mobile is it doesn't mean to say that you have to kind of strip out all the functionality or strip out stuff because a mobile device has less powerful and doesn't have so much processing power or bandwidth. There's so many more things that you can do that make that whole experience far more rich and different and relevant. But also, you're making the mobile device at that point, the example you were giving there about the airport, the mobile device becomes a companion to the overall product or service. So if you're selling airline tickets, if you're selling shoes, or if you're selling cars, or whatever it is you're selling, all of a sudden the mobile device becomes part and parcel of your product or service. And tapping into that's wowing the customer, and that's fantastic customer experience.
Absolutely. And, to our next example and factor here is, so while you're traveling, you and I, we've probably had our share of dropped cell phones and devices. I think a lot of people on the call can actually say the same. The reality here is there's a lot of things you can do other than clicking, pointing, swiping, right? Which also, if I'm in an airport or I'm in a rush and I have to only use one hand, there's a lot of other options as far as how to interface with me.
Yeah, I mean, I get really frustrated because, having been in mobile for what feels like forever, and you kind of look at the device capability and all the things that are all built into these things like cameras and accelerometers and really cool screens and high resolution screens and flexible screens and things. And yet we still seem to want to try and use the same kind of functionality that we've always done with a desktop and a mouse and a keyboard and try and make those things work in the mobile context. Shake and tap and twist and how about sliding menus? Why have these long scrolling menus? Why not have them sliding from one place to another? There's lots of really good examples of those things now. Google are using it, and we've got customers using this, kind of new forms of orientation, and it just makes that whole mobile experience, a proper mobile experience. What about security and filling in forms? And how often do you go to a mobile site and you get this massive long form and it brings up a little keyboard and you're trying to tap away and you type your name in wrong and then the @ symbols on the different keyboard and you've got to press shift and all this. It's just a horrible experience. Why not do away with all that completely? Why not use things like the swipe functionality and patterns and maybe have used the camera to recognize somebody's face or recognize their thumbprint, or I don't know, the world is your oyster when it comes to thinking about mobile and coloring outside the lines with mobile is just so much real estate. There isn't a screen and a keyboard and a mouse. The opportunity is just so exciting. And maybe try using some multivariate testing. Try some of these things out. Run it up. Try it out with some customers, and if it doesn't work, try something else. So you've got to be agile with it. There's no one answer, but give it a go because when you hit the golden nugget, I tell you what, the customers are just going to love it.
So speaking of the golden nugget, or in this sense, our metaphor is the golden experience. We've hopefully sparked some interest and brought everyone together as far as rethinking some of the key elements of how to assess, thinking and mapping that to your approach. The things that really make up the difference between an experience and a great experience, and be able to look at things in the proper mobile context. To give you an example, and we look at this site and we say, well, listen, we basically are puzzled because it's a website and web content that's just shoehorned into a mobile site, and you don't have the right balance even on branding. As Philip described before, there's speed issues. There's lots of data being crammed onto the device. We even noticed that there's multiple experiences depending on what region you're in. So it's really not living up to the things that we've described. Versus, and Philip definitely can speak to this, is the navigation is appropriate for the device. The branding is the proper weighting. And speaking of weighting, you're sending the right amount of data. You're optimizing the elements, but you still, Philip said it beautifully, is regardless of what device, what touch, I still feel like I'm dealing with the same brand. And that's when we talk about being able to deliver a consistent brand experience, this is what we mean. And often you're using your rich media, you're using your content to make that happen. And everything from what makes sense to what makes sense for the device. Philip, you definitely have some insights as far as it's not just a class of devices, right? It's about that individual device. And I know you and I have chatted about the amazing possibilities of knowing what's turned on and doing the context discovery portion of of this effort.
Yeah, absolutely, and again, we're learning every day. There's new devices coming out every day. I heard just over the last 24 hours that Apple are going to bring out the new devices are all going to be sort of 5 or 7 inch screens because that's the new form factor. There's new high resolution screens, really high resolution screens that give completely new experiences. This is a changing landscape the whole time. If you can tap into some of these things and make yourself flexible and agile enough, do some testing. Get user groups to do some testing and get some feedback and make those changes and stuff, because it's the only way to kind of stay ahead. But yeah, you're right. Giving this contextually relevant experience and really investing the time and the money. I mean, again, one of the things that I think frustrates me is kind of the whole level of investment. And companies, like Forrester said, they have that getting to the customer and the age of the customer and delivering this kind of stuff. It's not cheap. We've got to throw resources at it, and the guys that are working away and delivering these kinds of things, either in your agency or in your web teams or wherever, are working really, really hard. And but it just more, lots more needs to be done. This is an ever-changing feast.
Absolutely, and I mean, and you really hit it on the head. Several Forrester analysts in different disciplines have clearly said, the days of inexpensive mobile are over. It's becoming such a critical channel. The experience is really taking hold in the sense of it's an essential part of the customer journey now, and to ignore this or to treat it as a second-rate citizen amongst your efforts. Think about all the work that goes into the web experience. To do anything less than equal that for mobile, for many an organization, is going to begin to be catastrophic. And where I was kind of going with the original thought here is there's a place that, it's great to be able to deliver mobile. It's great to be able to even lay things out properly. But, what we've noticed here is if the device, and that's where I was getting with the device discovery is, if we know the GPS is turned on, you have the ability to now deliver, the experience of a map where you couldn't previously. Well, taking a look at the time, I know we have a lot of customers that are leveraging us, and I know a lot of folks have joined us on the line today. We have a lot of different solutions that come together to deliver our web solution, and most of our customers are very aware of the fact that we can help with the web content and be able to deliver unified experiences across channels, be able to target properly, be able to manage and deliver all types of rich media, because today it's well beyond just the text, but all of this rests on a platform of context. And again, it's not a bolted on thing. There's a lot of sharing amongst both the different marketers and the different teams that drive your efforts. And again, just to mention that our web solution is just one of several solutions, and we look at it the same way. Whether it's in the cloud or whether it's on premise, is the fact that these efforts are becoming less and less siloed. Even though the teams are very dedicated and focused on different efforts within your organization, we're realizing that the experiences and the touches are part of a unified journey, and our systems need to reflect that as well. So moving on to questions and answers. I'll just make mention we have our next webcast is going to kind of look at the same subject of context, but kind of bring it out and talk about some of the rich media and visual assets that we have been mentioning today, and how that can be part of your contextual mix. As well as I also suggest everyone go back and take a look at our previous webinar, that talks about why context is at the heart of customer experiences, and those elements of data and targeting and segmentation and content and brokering, context brokering, is really explored in that webinar. So if you want to learn more, that definitely would be a good place to go. And Philip, I know you want to invite everybody.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you put up a kind of slide with our customers. For me, it's so exciting to be able to work with these top brands. You know, something in the region of 72 of the top 100 global brands, you know, work with us and trust us, not from a technology perspective, but also as trusted advisors. And it's so great to work with you all. And also to be able to put on these kinds of events. So we have Innovate coming up in London, in Amsterdam, in San Francisco, in Sydney, in Tokyo. So wherever you are in the world, you know, these events where you can engage and we can engage with you and we can talk about the kind of things we've been talking about today, and then look at ways and solutions of actually how to deliver that in the real world. So I'm really looking forward to meeting a lot of you at the Innovate events around the world.
So definitely come and you know, spend time with myself and Philip at these events. So I think, Tom, we're going to.
I think you guys just did an amazing presentation. I learned a lot. I hope our audience members did. And now it's time for your questions. If you're listening to this all patiently, I know you must have some questions, as I do. We have a few to start with, but before I get to them, let me remind you that you can enter your question down in the bottom right corner where it says Q&A, how appropriate, or through the chat function just above it, or through the Twitter feeds you see there. Now, the first question we have is from a customer who has some mobile but thinks it could be better. Can't it? I think that's true for everybody. They'd like to address some of the things in the presentation today, but they wonder, how do we get started and how do we gain support?
That's a very good question.
I mean,
Phil, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously two questions there. How do we get started and how do we get support? Well, I'll answer the second question, part of that question first. I mean, when we were acquired, or when Vimoco was acquired last year, we were acquired for two things. One was our technology, so that we could really embed that into the web products for SDL, but also 20, 25 years of mobile experience, and that's really where that rich support comes from. And what we'd like to be able to do is to give you as much support as you require. And we've got a whole team of people here that have been building mobile experiences for some of the largest companies in the world. And you don't get everything right, and learning from those mistakes. So it'd be great to be able to impart some of that knowledge. In order to answer the other question about how to get started, just stop whatever it is you're doing today and get started. There are so many things to kind of chunk off, but maybe look at those three areas. Maybe work on doing a site assessment. Maybe have a look at some of those things that we've been talking about today. But those three areas of approach, experience, and then those contextual elements within mobile. And if you can kind of split it out into those things, and then you'll probably start to get clarity.
Good answer. Good answer. And we have several other questions, about 5 minutes remaining. We're welcoming other questions still. We have another question here, again, from a customer who has mobile now, and they use responsive design. Why is this different, they ask. Not sure what perspective they mean. Why is it different? But
well, responsive design is part of the whole mobile puzzle. But I don't think it should be relied upon as the golden bullet, because that's when you get into this one-size-fits-all. So where this approach, or where we're trying to kind of highlight different approaches is about picking, almost picking your battles, picking the right approach for the right experience for your customers. And really kind of understanding that, and that's why things like page weight is becoming a critical element now, because trying to layer on more experiences across the growing number of devices starts to impact the site, slows the site down, affects the customer experience, and now you have to kind of go back to the drawing board and look at ways to kind of strip the site down and stop it being so lumbering and so heavy. So in terms of how it's different, it's different because it's not a one-size-fits-all, and means that you can release yourself from the shackles of being tied down by or one approach.
Absolutely, and you know, one of the things to think about, we had that example where it was a publication, right? It was a news outlet, and essentially they were able to use, you know, an approach like responsive design and take all that information and put it into a mobile phone. And so what did you find yourself doing? Well, you did a lot of digging, right? You had to do a lot of scrolling. You probably had some lag times, but you probably dealt with it because it was news, right? I've always been fascinated with folks dealing with the large format papers. You know, I live in the New York area, and I've, you know, Wall Street Journal and the New York Times, and folks on the train with not a lot of space in between other passengers during rush hour, and they're folding the paper, and they're almost like they were on a treasure hunt looking for the information, and that was part of the news, you know, consumption, right, experience. But if you're trying to find something, you're trying to interact with a vendor, that is the worst possible direction to go in, right? So, you know, to Philip's point is the one-size-fits-all really, you know, plays upon what is the right context for the situation, for the location, for that particular user, and such. It just fitting things into a screen, which is sort of like the big, you know, the big push or the big approach regarding responsive, isn't enough for all situations. So,
good answer. We're just down to our last
hopefully we beat that one up.
We're just down to our last couple of minutes. I want to sneak in at least one more question here. So please, let's keep the answers brief if we can. We'll squeeze into it. The next one was tweeted in, I think, from Corbin. It's short, and I'm not sure I really understand it, but I'll ask it. It says, experience with agile localization.
Okay. I would say, well, I'll start. Context is a lot of different things. One of the things that SDL is actually extremely well versed at is localization, hyperlocalization, globalization, and such. And what's so key there is think about it this way. You know, in North America, we often think everything is going to be in English, but for a lot of organizations dealing with the nation, depending on the market, depending on the types of targets they're going after, more than likely there's several languages that really they should have their interactive properties in, right? So depending on the city, maybe it's Chinese or Korean, or Spanish, or French, you know, if you're definitely north of the border in Canada. So depending on your market, depending on your audience, you know, language plays a critical role. And so when we had talked about bringing those big areas together of data and content, one of the areas of the content is the ability to serve up the right content, right? And be able to easily map and localize the content so that, and manage all that so that you're constantly delivering it in the right language. Well, that's important because if you're not, and I go to Europe more for this example, is if you're not, folks, even though they may understand English, will kind of be turned off. You can lose up to 85% of your audience simply because you're in the wrong language and you're not dealing with them in the right context based on language. So, you know, that really, we didn't speak to it today, but that really becomes a critical part of the overall context story.
Okay, great. Well, that was a good answer to a short question. Thank you for that, Lou. I think we're just about out of time now, and I know we want to thank everybody for joining us today. This webinar has been recorded. It'll be available on cmswire.com later this week. We'll also be writing about it on CMS Wire, so please check out that story. I'll be writing that myself. I want to thank Lou Casal and Phil Clement for joining us today. Please stay tuned for future webinars on CMS Wire. And please join us for our next Tweet Jam, which is State and Present Challenges of Mobile Enterprise. That's coming up tomorrow on April 24th, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 Eastern Time in the U.S. And you'll find that at hashtag #SocialBizChat. Want to thank you very much for being with us today, and wherever you are in the world, I hope you have a pleasant morning, afternoon, or evening. We'll see you next time. Thank you. This is Tom Murphy.